Welcome to Maureen Driscoll Romance. I'm romance novelist Maureen Driscoll, and today is another installment in I Knew It Was Over When, which is the moment when you know it's a no-go, it's not going to work, you got to start over, you're at the back of the line, the whole thing, it's over. Sometimes it's over before it even begins. One way I judge people, and I judge people a lot, is how nice they are to others, especially how nice they are to people with a difficult job. And by difficult job, I mean if you work with the public, oh, you have a difficult job because the public is awful, just people, terrible. For instance, if I'm on an airplane and there's no leg room and I'm just like shoulder to shoulder with people around me, and it's just smells and it's gross and ugh. If the flight attendant is coming down the aisle, and they offer me, a half a cup of, warm Coke, I'm gonna be thank you. Like this was just like this huge, like $1 million deal that they just, does thanks, like gold bar in a cup. Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna be super nice. Do you know why? Because I have a difficult job. Now, if the CEO of the airline shows up, they're going to get an earful from me. Not going to hold back because they don't deal with the public that much. And, they're billionaires. They should hear some crap. So, bottom line is if I'm on a date with someone and they don't treat others well, just game under, game over. Not going to happen. I met a guy on Bumble, and he was an actor, and I recognized him because he's an actor. He's not like a famous actor, like I didn't know what his name was, but when we spoke I knew what he would sound like because he's been in a lot of stuff. And once I did get his name, I did look him up on IMDb because this is Los Angeles and that's what we do. And he has like 100 credits. I mean, so he's been in a lot, and he's a successful actor. So I'm like, oh, good for you, dude. So we meet up at a restaurant, and first of all, he's better looking than his pictures, which never happens. He's also taller than I thought he would be because, again, I've seen him on TV, so I thought he was. I don't know. I guess I didn't really like go, oh, how tall is that guy? But I remember when he walked in, I was like, oh, taller than I thought. So these are two great things off the bat. I mean, a part of me is like, you should marry this guy. Um, and then the date actually started. And at first it was okay because we were doing like the first date things and chit chat and then we were figuring out what we had in common. And I too am an actor, but I do not have anywhere near 100 credits. And I worked at an actor studio. And what I would do is we would have these casting directors come in and we do these workshops. And so it was my job to collect headshots and resumes. And just in case you're not an actor and you're watching this, these are my headshots. So these, let me see if we can get the glare at are my headshots. And I'm wearing that shirt. Okay, that's embarrassing, but I don't feel like changing. So, also, just side note, this picture right here, I look a lot like Allison Janney, so my agent loves it. I always kind of look like Allison Janney, but I think he's like, oh yeah, let's use this one because maybe people will get confused. Anyway, these are headshots. And what happens is when you're an actor, you want to put your resume on the back. And so this is a list of my credits. See, not 100, not 100, but I did finally get to the point where everything on here is something I've actually done. So what you do is you staple this to the front and then you hand it to the casting director. And so it's like, oh, okay. And then they throw it away. But when I was at the acting studio, I figured out relatively early on that actors are pretty dumb. Not everybody, not everyone, but a lot of them are. For one instance, and this isn't the only instance I could give you, but it's, I can't go on for like hours. What they would do is that they would, instead of giving me stapled thing, they would just hand me their picture and then their resume separate. which I was supposed to hand to the casting directors. Now, if you do that, for some reason, they didn't realize that these would not stay together, and so they could get separated. And if they have a big pile, it's just going to get loose, and the casting director is then going to have to find it and staple it and the whole thing. When in fact, you should do that before you hand it in. It's part of your job as an actor. You want to do shit correctly. I don't know. So when I was talking to this actor, who we're just going to call Jeff, it's Jeff Goldblum. It's not Jeff Goldblum. But that I'm not gonna go there. So when I was telling him this, I'm like, oh, these dumbass actors. He was getting kind of this look. I could tell he was bristling a little bit. And he's like, well, I don't understand. Why do you think this is dumb? And I said, well, because it's part of their job and they're just handing this to the casting director and they're not going to be able to do anything with it and it's going to get lost. And they should, why am I explaining this? This is self-evident. So he bristles more and says that he has been an actor for decades, and he has studied and he has worked really hard, and if he wants to just half-ass it, although he didn't use that phrase, but if he just wants to hand this to the casting director, he should be able to, because the casting director should have a stapler and put it together his or herself, because he's earned it. Apparently, that's he might not be getting an Oscar because, again, you don't know his name, but apparently the thing he has earned is being able to be like a jackhole. So I did not think that was very respectful, because casting directors also work really hard, and they're not famous. He's not famous. But they shouldn't have to go the extra mile. That's not part of their job. And they just deserve more respect than that. So this did not get better. And toward the very end of the date, I was really looking forward to him, walking away and be like, bye. But he beat me to it. It was that part where you get up at the end, and he just sticks his hand out and he's like, oh, nice meeting you. Even though that did not convey nice meeting you even. So it was whatever the opposite of nice meeting you was what he was. He is a good actor. Because he got that right out. I understood where he was going with that one expression. But again, it did irritate me because I wanted to be that person. I wanted to be the one, bye, this is not going to happen again. And I wasn't. Oh, that's the worst. Now, actually, the worst is he probably, because he teaches acting. So if he teaches acting and he deals with actors all the time, he should know how dumb they are. So what was going to happen is he was going to go back to his studio, and this whole thing, I'm sure, has turned into a story for him about, I stood up for you guys. I was with this woman, and she didn't respect actors. And she said we were dumb, because you are. I went to the Getty Center on a date, and the Getty Center is this wonderful museum in Los Angeles. And we were, my date and I were, this date I'll call him Jeff too, just be the Jeff episode. So Jeff and I, different Jeff, we're looking at a painting, and I have terrible eyesight to the point where I should not be driving. Don't tell the DMV, but I should not be driving. So I was, looking at this, squinting, seeing if I could see the brush strokes, and he was doing the same thing. And I don't know if he has terrible eyesight or if he was just copying me. But we're both doing this just really a couple inches away. And there was a security guard over there, and he's like, oh, you're going to have to back up. So I backed up, because the security guard, who has a difficult job because, again, deals with the public, asked me to. My date, on the other hand, Jeff, did one of these. He leans in further to look at this. And at this point, he's not really looking at the brushstrokes. He's just of course, goading the guard, and looks at me like, oh, aren't I funny? No, you're not funny. This guy that's his whole job, is he's supposed to take care of the art, and it's really nice art. And here we are in a room with, I don't know, 150 people or so, because I mean, the Getty Center is big. And I would say in America today, if you've got a group of like 150 people, that 20, maybe 30 people would go up and like wipe their nose on the painting. That's, I mean, you read about that shit all the time. This is the world we live in. Or something worse. So, yeah, the guard over there, who again is getting paid not much money to deal with the public and keep the art safe, is telling us to back up. And you, Jeff, are just, why would you do that? So I knew at that point it was over, that was just not going to, no, I couldn't do that again. But we just gotten there and we paid like $15 to park. And I know for most people, $15 is, but $15 is a lot of money to me because, again, I'm an actor. So, we count the pennies. So I had to spend the rest of the afternoon with guy who disrespects guard. And don't. So the moral to the story is treat people well. Particularly treat people who have difficult jobs well. And if you want to impress your date, don't be a jerk. I don't know. I can't really say it plainer than that. Thank you. If you like this episode, please hit like and subscribe, share with your friends, and I will see you on the next video.